Okay, today we want to look at a couple of types of questions that you're going to see on a PARCC test and show you some of the tools and how they work in a particular question. We're going to look at a 7th grade math test, but many of the types of questions are similar in a reading test. So we're going to go ahead and launch Safari, and then we're going to go to the computer lab link on the gray bar. I'm going to go into PARCC, the second PARCC. That's on the links on useful websites. We're going to go down to test preparation, and I want to pick practice tests, and you can do this with me if you are at a computer. Otherwise you can just watch and listen, and hopefully it will be helpful. We're going to go ahead and go to the mathematics practice test, and I'm going to look at a grade 7 math test, and we are going to do the PBA, the Performance-Based Assessment under Computer-Based Practice Test. First thing that you'll be asked to do is sign in. Now, if you are actually in the actual test, you would read these instructions. But for today's purposes, we are not here to actually do the math. We are here to look at the different types of questions. This is a typical multiple choice, and you're going to hit select. We have already looked at these tools across the top, so we're simply looking at the types of questions. So you're going to choose the answer in a multiple choice and one answer only. This is a drag and drop. You're going to simply drag the possible answer choices into the given boxes. So it's a drag and drop. If you make a mistake, you can pull one in, pull one out. Okay? Let's go on to the next type of question. This is where you're going to simply type an answer in. That's all it's looking for. Just type in the box. It tells you specifically. Another multiple choice. We're not going to answer this one. You've seen multiple choice. This is where you're going to type in a math equation. It's telling us that they're looking for an equation. So we're going to simply type in an equation. We're going to look at several different equations just so you can look at some of the different tools. We're not necessarily looking to type in the right answer, but this equation is going to be y equals, and I'm going to type in 8x. And that was all done pretty much on the keyboard, but you could have used the equal sign here. Now, if I want to add something to that equation, I would click on the plus sign, or I can use my keyboard and also select a plus sign. If I wanted to type in another value, whether it be a letter or a number, I could use my keyboard. If I wanted to type in a fraction, I could use the tool here, or I could use the backslash on my keyboard and type in 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and use the tool. I'm going to type in a 3. To navigate to the denominator, I can simply click down below it, and it knows that, whoops, I didn't click underneath, down below, and type in my 4. Another way to do that, if I wanted to add another fraction, whoops. Now what happened just then was I added a plus sign, and it went into my denominator because I hadn't moved my cursor out of that fraction denominator. To undo that, I hit my delete key. I can also hit the undo arrow. But I need to get my cursor back up here in the middle. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and hit my plus sign now, and I'm going to add another fraction. But let's say this time I wanted a mixed number. I'm going to go ahead and put my mixed number symbol in, and I'm going to type in my whole number. Then I need to click in the numerator. Or another way to navigate around is you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So it lets me navigate just clicking on those arrow keys. So if I wanted 5 2/5, I type the 2, hit my down arrow key, and I can type my 5. To get out of that fraction now, again, I can use my mouse, or I can use the arrow keys, and I would use the arrow pointing to the right. That takes me kind of into that neutral space. If I wanted to do a minus, I could add another number. Let's say we wanted to add some crazy power number. I can go ahead and click into that box, and now it gives me a power, so I could do x and then click into the power squared. If I really messed it up and I want to start completely over, the best thing to do is to use your trash can. I would do that, and I would type in another equation. I want to show you one more equation where we can use the parentheses, and there are two ways to do it, but I'm going to and I will tell you we're going to do y equals, and then if I wanted some parentheses, I get them, and then I can enter my value in here. And now I want another set of parentheses, but I need it outside, so I'm going to click outside. Another way besides using the parentheses button down here is to hit your Shift 9. That gives me some parentheses, and then I can type in. And if I want the power button again, I have the spaces created for me. I've got to get out of that power. Remember, I'm going to hit the down arrow key on my keyboard, or the right arrow. If the down arrow didn't work, the right arrow did. And let's do -3 as the end. So we've used the parentheses. The square root and cube root are going to work the same. Notice that there are some other tools available for inequalities. There's pi, absolute value. Let's go ahead and look at another question. This was your equation editor. We've looked at multiple choice, we've looked at pull down, we looked at drag and drop, we've looked at the equation editor. This is called a multiple select. It's different than multiple choice, and notice that I can tell that by the fact that I don't have circles now, I have squares. And my instructions tell me to select each correct answer. So I know that there is more than one correct, but I don't know how many. I'm going to have to do the math in order to find out. But to save time today, I'm just going to go ahead and pick a couple. And that's how you would do multiple select. It lets you pick more than one answer. That's the end of the non-calculator section. I want to go ahead and go on to the next. There is one answer question. Normally you would go to your review answers, you would go to that question and you would answer it. But to save time, and because we're just looking at question types, we're going to go ahead and hit end section and continue. And we're going to look at a couple other types of questions. This is a pull down. My answer choices are actually in this pull down bar. So I would pick the answers that I wanted, that I did after I did my mathematical computation. I would know how to answer those questions. And go on to the next question. Notice now that up here by my protractor and ruler, I do have a calculator, so if I need to make some mathematical computations on the calculator, that's available to me now. Again, remember, circles are multiple choice, squares are multiple select, so here I would have the opportunity to pick more than one answer based on how many are right, and perhaps they all are. I'm going to say they probably aren't, but I have that opportunity to choose them all. The next type of question is a drag and drop. So it lets me drag things in. If I made the wrong choice, I can drag and drop. In part B, it looks like an equation editor, but they're simply asking for you to enter your answer in the box. The answer is cost, so it's probably going to be in dollars. So I'm going to just type in an answer. If I did the math, I would probably come up with a different number, but again, it's an answer in dollars, and that's all they're asking for. This is a drag and drop, and this is an answer. We've already seen those, so we're going to go on. This is a simple question about an expression and simplifying that expression, but the students made an error, so they're asking you to identify the error and then fix the steps and get a final answer. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how you would answer this one. I would first identify the error, and I'm going to say that in step 2, the error was made. So I've identified the error, and now I'm going to go ahead and list the steps. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and retype and do the math so you can see what a correct answer might look like. I identified the error, and then I redid the problem, fixing step 2, and then of course 3 and 4 had to be fixed as well. She did hers in 5, I was able to do it in 4, and I showed it. So I've identified the step, I've shown my work, and I have a final answer. Let's go ahead and go on to the another type of question. We're going to go ahead and skip that one, and we are going to skip this one as well, but notice that they're looking for an approximation of how many plants grew per square foot, so you're going to have to do some math. Then they want to know how you got that approximation, and they want an equation. So you would have y equals something in here. So there's several things that you would type in there, but all things that we've done. So we're going to go ahead and go on to another type of question. And really this is something that we've already done before too, but I wanted to show you one thing. As you enter your answer, your explanation, and an example, we're going to need a inequality here, and I wanted to point out that it's not available here. So remember that under relations or geometry, there might be something that is available to you. The actual answer here is going to be 5 plus x, or x has got to be less than a negative, or less than a negative 5. So the actual answer is going to be this, but I also am going to have an explanation and an example. Examples are ways that you might have arrived at the problem. I may have substituted different numbers in there. I would have, and I'm going to go ahead and type several different examples, and then I'll explain those. Okay, so I began my, this is actually kind of my thought process as I plug different numbers in, and I noticed that any number less than a negative 5, I got a negative answer. So I was able to write an equation that x is less than a negative 5. And then I wrote my explanation that I had plugged different values of x into the equation until I was able to see that 5 plus any, and I misspelled number, so that's something I'd have to fix, any number less then a negative 5 will be negative, so the value of x must be less than a negative 5 if n is a negative number. My two examples that show this to be true are right here, even though I did several numbers, and that's the process I went through to arrive at this equation. Okay, that's going to be the end of the tutorial. You've seen several different types of questions: multiple choice, multiple select, drag and drop, pull down. You've seen the equation editor, and you've seen the explanation box. Those are pretty much what you're going to see on a math test. You may be asked to use your ruler or your protractor. You may be asked to solve something that requires a formula or a conversion, so you will be able to find those there. That is a very quick review or tutorial on the types of problems that you might see in a math test or a reading test. You're going to see pull downs, and you're going to see drag and drop. You're going to see short answer or an essay answer in a box where you'll have to type information, and as you type, the box will expand and you'll have a scroll bar. I hope this helps.